Sydney is a city known for its stunning beaches, vibrant culture, and world-class lifestyle. But it is also one of the most expensive cities to live in the world. So in 2025, how much does it actually cost to live here? Whether you're a local, a student, or someone planning to move, this video will break down the cost of living in Sydney and answer the question, is it still affordable? Previously, I've made videos on what I spend in a week or a month in Sydney as a 20-year-old, but they are a bit outdated, so they might give you some indication of how much it costs to live here. But let's talk about the current situation. Sydney's housing market has always been a hot topic. Everywhere there's videos about people house hunting in Sydney's rental crisis. And yes, in 2025, rental prices have climbed, but not as much compared to other years. If I talk about right now, a one bedroom in the city costs between $700 to $950 per week to rent, while outside the CBD, which is the central business district, you might pay $500 to $700 per week. Now, if you're renting a room in a shared house, it will cost between $200 to $500 per week, depending on the location, of course, and the size of the room and other factors. So you will be saving a little bit more when you're in a share house, but obviously that's if it's your speed. I've lived in a bunch of share houses here, especially to live in a good location, and I've had great experiences, but also some bad ones. So it really depends on who you live with, what the vibe of the house is like, if they have any rules, so make sure to check that before you commit to one. I've made other videos on how to find housing in Australia, so you can go watch that to find resources. Now, if you're thinking about buying property, that's a whole different ballgame. The median house price in Sydney ranges from 1 to 2 mil, which is why home ownership is a big struggle here, especially for young people to enter the housing market. But if you're looking a little bit outside of Sydney, you can find a studio or one bedroom ranging from 400 to 600k if you're lucky, but normally it would be 800k to a mil at least for a decent sized apartment or house. Now, whether you're buying a property, renting, or living in a share house, you will still pay utilities. Sometimes if you're in a share house, that might be included in your rent, but if it's not, electricity, water, and gas bills for an average apartment ranges from $150 to $250 per month. Internet plans are $60 to $120 per month, and mobile plans range from $30 to $80 per month. Now, the easiest way to get around Sydney is buses, trains, ferries. We have a lot of ways to travel in style, and I've made a whole other video on how to understand transportation in Australia, so you can go watch that to know more about that. But there's a card here called an Opal card, which makes accessing transport easy, but also you can use your credit card or debit card here to tap for public transport as well, which is so useful because not every city has that here in Australia. But with that also comes its price. So on average, you can expect to pay about $50 to $70 per week on public transport if you travel regularly, especially like I do, because I don't have my personal transportation. But if you do own a car here, fuel prices sit around $2 per litre, and parking in the city is very pricey. I know that's not the case in every city in Australia, but Sydney is packed, so finding good parking in a well-known spot is just unheard of. There's a whole business around parking garages here. There's Wilson's Parking, which offers some discounts to parking because they are present in a lot of city areas. Or if there's a Westfield nearby, here's a hack: download the app and you can get 4 hours free parking. There are also rideshare services here like Uber or taxis, and they range from $20 to $100, I would say, depending on how far you're going. So I would usually try to avoid them. I would try to seek public transport as much as possible because there are a lot of reoccurring services, especially in popular areas here like the city, eastern suburbs. I know when I lived in Bondi, I could even catch a train at 12 a.m. at night after having a night in the city, and it would be super accessible. Now let's talk groceries and dining out. A weekly grocery bill here on average will cost around $80 to $150 per week, depending on where you shop. Aldi is usually cheaper, but you can't find everything you're looking for there, so you'd have to go to Coles or Woolworths, which are the big supermarket giants here. On average, even coffee these days is $5 to $8, while an average restaurant meal can range from $20 to $40 per person. Takeaway and fast food will range from $15 to $25 per person. So I hope that gives you a bit of a rough guide of what it might cost depending on how much you get takeaway or dine out. Now, if you are going on a night out, that's a whole different ball game because alcohol is expensive here. So if you go into the club, bars, concerts, or nightlife activities, it can cost $50 to $100 easily a night. Obviously less if you don't drink much, but an average drink here costs $10 and a cocktail would cost $20 to $25 per drink. So you make of that what you will. Now, gym membership costs around $15 to $50 per week, depending on where you go. I used to go to Fitness First, which used to be around $23 per week, but now I use Class Pass, so that's different. But I know Anytime Fitness is the same amount, around $19 to $21 per week, and if you're going to the movies, it's $15 to $25 per ticket. Now, talking about healthcare, private health insurance can cost around $100 to $250 per month for basic coverage, but if you're eligible for Medicare, which is what Australian PRs and citizens get, doctor visits can often be bulk billed, but some specialists charge extra. So healthcare is the most expensive charge here, I would say. Even if you have coverage, you would have to pay extra most of the time. So God forbid you get sick in Sydney. So in the end, is Sydney still affordable in 2025? On average, a single person's monthly spending in Sydney will be $2,000 to $3,500 per month, depending on your lifestyle. While it is one of the most expensive cities to live in Australia or even the world, careful budgeting, lifestyle choices, and choosing the right location can make it a bit more manageable. But obviously everyone comes here for the lifestyle, so you want the best of the best, and I don't blame you for it. I did that too, and it definitely improved your quality of life, but just make sure to spend less in other aspects of your life. So what do you think? Would you move to Sydney or stay here long term? Do you think it's feasible with the cost of living? Let me know in the comments or message me on Instagram any questions you have. I'm posting every day on here about my life in Australia and self-development, so follow along and I'll see you next time.